you believe you have any information pertaining to this case, you are urged to contact the Saskatoon Police Service's Historical Crime Unit by telephone at 306-975-8300 or by email at policeservice@saskatoon.ca. Alternatively, you could contact Crime Stoppers on 1-800-222-8477 or online at canadiancrimestoppers.org/tips. Or instead, you could contact the National Centre for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains by email at canadasmissing-disparu-canada@rcmp-grc.gc.ca. On the 29th of June 2006, a construction crew were excavating gas tanks underneath a convenience store on the corner of 108th Street and Central Avenue in the Sutherland area of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Nearby to the worksite stood an abandoned well. When a black object rolled out from under the well, a worker thought it a little odd-looking, so he picked it up and inspected further. To his horror, he found that the object appeared to be a partial human skull. Naturally, the construction crew stopped working and contacted the police, who soon arrived on the scene. It took 3 days of digging for the authorities to fully uncover the human remains. With them, they found pieces of a barrel, several broken glass bottles, fragments of women's clothing, and pieces of a burlap sack. A man's black vest and trousers were found either on top of the remains or rolled in a ball next to them. An examination of the remains determined that they belonged to a woman. Her mandible was not present, and there was evidence to suggest that her left arm had been sawn off. That, along with evidence of other injuries on her remains, led the authorities to believe that this woman fell victim to homicide. It is surmised that after she was murdered, she was thrown into a burlap sack, stuffed into a barrel, and then tossed into the well. Police suspect that her arm had been sawn off so she could better fit into the barrel. In life, the woman had undergone dental work, having a filling put in. This dental work, along with the fragments of her clothing, revealed that she had died somewhere between the years of 1900 and 1920. The well in which she was found was used up until 1914, placing her year of death sometime thereafter. Further forensic investigations carried out by the police and an archaeologist narrowed her year of death down to most likely between 1920 and 1924. This means that tragically, her body remained undiscovered at the bottom of that well for over 80 years. A mixture of gasoline and water that covered her body for most of the time she was in the well preserved her remains and the items found with them. She was so well preserved, in fact, that flesh and hair still remained, and viable mitochondrial DNA was able to be extracted. The woman, of Caucasian descent, was somewhere between 20 and 35 years old at the time of her demise. She had wavy, light brown, reddish brown, auburn or strawberry blonde hair coiffed in a hairstyle most fashionable in the 1920s and 1930s, a build somewhere between slender and stocky, and a prominent nose. She stood between 4 feet 11 inches and 5 feet 2 inches tall. Evidence suggested that she had suffered from periodontal disease at the time of her death, which caused her to have cavities, an abscess, and several missing teeth, though she was otherwise healthy. She was wearing clothes typical for the 1908 to 1916 period. A 24-inch long 18-karat gold necklace of European origins or inspiration that was missing its pendant, a black high-collared fitted jacket, a white high-collared blouse, a white pre-1920s cotton corset with stays, a black cotton poplin skirt with a ruffled edge and a silk bodice attached, and a pair of black lace-up heeled leather boots with a pointed toe that were probably made around the year of 1910. This was typical spring or autumn wear. This clothing, along with the fact that she had undergone dental work, revealed to investigators that the woman was a middle to upper class individual. Around the time of her death, the town in which she was found was home to only about 1,000 to 1,500 people. In 1912, the Shore Hotel was built upon the land on which the woman's body was found. The hotel was seized by the town of Sutherland in 1919 when the owners failed to pay the taxes, and the building remained unused until at least November of 1927. In September 2009, the woman was buried in the Woodlawn Cemetery. Her ceremony attended only by members of the police force, employees from social services, and employees from the coroner's office. She rests there to this day, underneath a small concrete marker that was paid for by social services. In spite of the time frame between this woman's murder and the discovery of her remains, the Saskatoon police have stressed that this case is entirely solvable, given a name and the correct circumstances. The antiquity of this case doesn't matter, it can still be cracked. Even if her murderer cannot be identified, I'm sure that by using genetic genealogy, she can. Take Joseph Henry Loveless, for example. He was murdered and had his body dismembered in 1916, his torso was not found until 1979, his limbs were not located until 1991, his head is still yet to be discovered as of May 2020, and he was not positively identified until late 2019. That's a time frame of 103 years between the time of his death and the identification of his remains through genetic genealogy. If anyone watching this knows of a missing great-grandmother or a missing great-aunt or a missing distant cousin who resided in the Saskatchewan area, please consider contacting the appropriate authorities. If you research genealogy and you have a relative who resided in the same area, who suddenly went missing from the census or who you can't find a death record for, please consider contacting the appropriate authorities. If nothing else, they can rule your relative out as a possible identity, as they have the unidentified lady's DNA on file. There is still hope for this lady. She deserves her name back after all these decades. Though there are no official rule-outs listed on the RCMP's website, I was able to discover that police have tentatively ruled out, based on the circumstances and location, one Dorothy Harriet Camille Arnold, as stated in an article published by the Star Phoenix in 2010. Before I end this video, I would like to thank Gen Kaneshiro for suggesting that I cover this very interesting, yet tragic case. Just a reminder, if you didn't see my last video, I'm not taking any further requests at the moment, as admittedly I'm quite overwhelmed by the amount that I've already accepted. Again, if you believe you have any information whatsoever that may aid in the identification of this woman and or her murderer, you are urged to contact the Saskatoon Police Service's Historical Crime Unit by telephone at 306-975-8300 or by email at policeservice@saskatoon.ca. Alternatively, you could contact Crime Stoppers on 1-800-222-8477 or online at canadiancrimestoppers.org/tips. Or instead, you could email the National Centre for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains at canadasmissing-disparucanada@rcmp-grc.gc.ca. Thank you very much for giving the lady in the Wells case a moment of your day.